so they're all available for pre-order at StarCityGames.com. All the foils will be available for pre-order starting at 11 a.m. Eastern this coming Monday. So get your orders in for your Theros cards. Here we go, starting off. Drew Kuenzinger, Cory Lamb, Junk Reanimator, Malta 5 on your right. Cory
As if he wasn't down enough cards, Cory Lamb going to sign in blood himself, draw a couple extras. And it looks like Drew does have the Disciple, so if he can kind of curve into that, he might be able to get back in this, but that type of draw tells me that he doesn't have a land. And awkwardly enough, he has an Arbor Elf off of his Sun Petal Grove. Drew actually has a mix of mana creatures. He has one Elvish Mystic, 3 Absence Pilgrim, and 2 Arbor Elf. So it's unfortunate that of his 6 mana guys, he has one of the 2 that doesn't work.
Right, so Cory doesn't even really have to deal with that Arbor Elf.
Scavenging Ooze is also, yeah, he kills it just in case a forest comes off the top. And a Scavenging Ooze is pretty good against the Reanimator deck. An Absence Pilgrim comes into play, Miracle style for Drew, so he's still theoretically drawing live, although he's falling further and further behind every turn. He does have a Grizzly Salvage in hand, so if he draws 1 land, he can sort of parlay that into more lands and try and get to a point where he can Disciple Bolas himself back into the game. But until then, it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle for him, as Cory Lamb is not pumping his Scavenging Ooze, instead playing a Lifebane Zombie, which is going to tag a Thragtusk and show us an Unburial Rites, the Disciple, an Underworld Connections, which is a pretty awesome card, and the Grizzly Salvage.
And the Grizzly Salvage I mentioned can unmulligan you in situations like this, but Drew Kuenzinger does not have a black mana available to him yet.
Yeah, and the value that you would get off of the cards in your graveyard is kind of mitigated by the fact that Scavenging Ooze is in play. You got to kill that first. He does draw a black land. It comes into play tapped, but at least he's still drawing live. The Scavenging Ooze is going to eat the Arbor Elf, put a counter on, and Cory's going to go back up to 19. And he is facing down 6 damage. So that is theoretically a 3-turn clock.
Cory Lamb making quick work of the Reanimator deck.
Drew,
all these
very
black
frustrated.
cards.
Yeah, 5 is not a good number of cards to start with. You need to draw pretty well from that point, which Drew's stumbled a little. He is still drawing live. I'm not going to say that he's dead yet. And we see a Doomblade on the mana creature, just putting Drew further and further behind. How many... Okay, he is going to eat the... I was going to say, how much is he attacking for? 6 or 7? Looks like it is 7.
Eating all the creatures.
And...
another black card.
It was a...
Vampire Nighthawk.
So that actually might help stabilize if he can get a black land here off of this Grizzly Salvage. Looks like he hits an Isolated Chapel.
And a forest.
Also a forest, but he's going to need the black. And he also did not hit a creature, so the Scavenging Ooze doesn't get to grow anymore. So that's not actually the worst Grizzly Salvage in the world for Drew here.
So there's a glimmer of hope here. We saw him draw the Vampire Nighthawk.
Yeah, which is going to have to come down next turn.
Death Touch.
So he is down to 4 here. And, ooh, I just got a glimpse of Cory's hand. He's got a couple good ones in there. Looks like Desecration Demon and Thragtusk.
Oh, Desecration Demon.
That's a tough one.
Like the world's biggest troll. At least he cast it post-combat. Don't have to announce the trigger.
Yeah, he saved a click on the Magic Online there.
That card. See, now technically it turned in Drew's turn, but we don't care.
Yeah, it doesn't actually change anything, and
Drew's not going to sacrifice right there.
It looks like he's dying,
yeah.
And we get the sort of awkward, Game 2 handshake there. Thoughts on the Game 2 handshake?
Oh, that was only Game 2?
I believe so. I believe they're going to Game 3 now.
I don't know. Sometimes you lose track of the game situation.
You think that Drew thought he lost the match?
Maybe you are just a friendly guy.
Yeah. I mean, I know a couple people that do it, you know.
Before the match, during the match. Nice to meet you.
Just constantly shaking their opponent's hand. He's just, it's like turn 3, he's just like, all right, I'm going to play a Vampire Nighthawk, go. During your upkeep.
Handshake.
Handshake.
I'm going to try that now. You think that'll throw people off their game if I just offer a handshake?
I saw Patrick Chapin shake Owen Turdenwald's hand after game 1 in like a side draft, like a team draft, years ago.
And then Owen just left the table thinking he was done?
Owen like sort of like dead fish handshaked him, you know, because he wasn't like sure what was going on.
Oh, the limp wrist.
Yeah. He gave him the limp wrist, and then afterward, like a minute later, he's just like, "Why did you shake my hand?" Patrick's just like, "I don't know, man. Just see if I could, you know, get in your head a little, see what's going on." And I guess he did get in his head because Owen was genuinely confused.
Good to know. All right, I'm gonna try that. So we saw Cory land with the black-green control deck cast Sign in Blood. You're talking about these utility cards with Scry.
There's a new one.
Theros. Read the Bones. Is this better than Sign in Blood? This is a black and 2 sorcery. Scry 2, then draw 2 cards. You lose 2 life.
Yeah. Scry 2, draw 2, lose 2.
Sure.
It's good text.
Is this better or worse than Sign in Blood?
It's different. Sign in Blood. Well, Sign in Blood. I mean, if you're very heavy black, Sign in Blood's better, and if you're very aggressive, Sign in Blood's better. Both because it's cheaper and because you can target them. But there were multiple decks where, like, I was, you know, helping friends build decks or brewing myself, where people were trying to play black, white, red control decks, like black, white, red good stuff decks. You know, like Boros Reckoner, Obsidat, Thundermaws, and removal and stuff like that. And the biggest flaw of those decks was that they didn't have think twice, basically. They didn't have a way to get traction in the early game, generate velocity of any sort, generate card advantage until the late game. So like your deck is just all 5-drops and not much card draw, and there's not many options. Sign in Blood was too hard to cast consistently, and Underworld Connections was too slow, and there was no other real card draw available. So in a deck like that, Read the Bones fits in absolutely perfectly, like right on curve, does exactly what you want it to do. So I think that it's going to open itself up to use in different archetypes, but where Sign in Blood is played now, I think Sign in Blood would have been better. So Drew on the play gets to keep 7 this time, which is quite fortunate. Cory also kept 7 on the draw and is starting with a Mutavault, which
turn 1 Mutavault.
Means he's not going to be Sign in Blooding on 2, but it does open him up to attacking for 2 on 2.
Do you just attack? Into 2 open mana, into Doomblade?
The Dungran Raider decks usually use Putrefy as their go-to removal spell, and if it's not Putrefy, it's like Tragic Slip or Abrupt Decay. So nothing that actually kills a Mutavault.
Could be 2 Tragic Slips.
It could be.
Do you trade a Mutavault for 2 Tragic Slips?
Like, that's actually a good question. If Drew just like showed Cory 2 Tragic Slips in his hand, would Cory activate an attack? Like, is that a profitable exchange? I actually don't know. But Grizzly Salvage on end step is definitely profitable. And it looks like he hit a bunch of Mana Dorks, a Mulch that he can't take, a Sun Petal Grove, and a Vampire Nighthawk. So either the land so that he can do stuff, or the Vampire Nighthawk and cast it next turn, and it looks like that's the decision. He does have 1 more land in his hand at Temple Garden, but he has like a couple 4-drops and a 5-drop, it looks like, so I think he's going to have to take the land, and he agrees. I like how he leaves his graveyard out there like he's playing Dredge and Legacy or something.
Well, this is a graveyard-based deck.
It sort of is. It has some cards that use the graveyard. I wouldn't say it's a graveyard deck.
As much as you can get in Standard.
Yeah, that's pretty true. Fair enough. So, Cory's turn 3, Woodland Cemetery. This is sort of the point where it's like do or die time, like you need, you know, an Underworld Connections, a Liliana, or a Lifebane Zombie will work, and it will actually get a choice. A choice between a Thragtusk and an Angel of Serenity, and the rest of Drew's hand appears to be the Sun Petal Grove we just saw, another Temple Garden, so he did have another, or he drew the land on the in-between turn, a Disciple of Bolas, and an Unburial Rites. Now, the fortunate thing for Cory is that Lifebane Zombie does exile the creature, so he's not turning on that Unburial Rites. What do you think about, what do you take here, if you're Cory?
Yeah, a lot of it depends on what his hand is. Just in general, I feel like Angel of Serenity is the bigger threat.
I would agree. Exiling an Angel is like pretty important if you ever get a chance to, just so that they don't get, you know, the Unburial Rites shenanigans going. There is the threat of Thragtusk into Disciple, which is pretty hard to beat if you don't have, you know, double removal spell or what have you.
Yeah.
But I think that that is more likely than...
He takes the Thragtusk.
He does take the Thragtusk. So he is more scared of the Thragtusk into Disciple sequence than he is of any later potential Angel of Serenity shenanigans. It's possible he has, you know, Scavenging Ooze or something in his hand, where he just doesn't want the Disciple sequence running him down, whereas the Angel Loop doesn't scare him as much. Or maybe he just thinks that that is going to generate more of an advantage over the course of the way that this game is going to play out.
Could have another Lifebane Zombie as well.
Yes, also an option. Although, if he did, I don't think he would have thought for that amount of time. If I were Drew trying to get a read off of him, I would say, you know, with some degree of certainty that he didn't have another Lifebane, but it was definitely possible. Looks like he does not because he's choosing to attack with a Mutavault.
With only the one mystery draw step, Cory Lamb gets in there with the Mutavault. Nothing to fear.
No play on 4 is actually kind of a big deal. The deck has a decent number of 4-drops with...
So, Drew right there had the Restoration Angel, did not block the Mutavault.
That is interesting.
Possibility there is what? Playing around a Tragic Slip?
Yeah, because he's gonna try and Disciple away the Restoration Angel, so he doesn't want his Resto getting slipped. That makes sense. The profit you get from Discipling for 3 here is so much greater than the profit you get off of killing a Mutavault that I like Drew's play a lot here. The Black Sphinx's Revelation, Disciple of Bolas.
Alright, gain 3 life, draw 3 cards for the price of an Angel.
What's also awesome with Disciple being in play is that it threatens to trade with either of Cory's creatures, and if Cory doesn't offer up a trade that's profitable for Drew, then he can just Unburial Rites the Restoration Angel and draw 3 more.
Okay. Cory Lamb, Lifebane Zombie on the field.
Liliana Edict Disciple. Kind of priced into that, especially knowing the Unburial Rites in Drew's hand. Looks like Mutavault's going to get frisky again, knock Drew back down to 11 here. And passing the turn tapped out, where Drew's got a fistful of cards and a nice, a decently juicy graveyard as well. Draws Putrefy for the turn, that ugly promo. I don't like that promo.
Which one? Which one is that?
The like full art.
Oh, the
I think it was a F&M. Was it an F&M promo or was it one of the old DCI promos?
This was the program where they just sent you cards.
Yeah, the DCI
playing.
promos. Yeah. It was one of the last ones too, right? When they stopped before they stopped that program. Wow, that is interesting. He Unburial Rites the Vampire Nighthawk. It cannot be Doombladed and it stonewalls the Mutavault, but still kills the Liliana on the next turn. So I guess that actually works out pretty favorably, like from a tactical position. Even though, you know, on the surface, Restoration Angel would be a larger creature.
And with the Unburial Rites in the graveyard, Cory is unable to +1 the Liliana because he knows that there's an Angel of Serenity
in his hand, yep. Putrefy Nighthawk so that he can get in with Mutavault, looks like. Wow, he did plus it.
So Drew evaluates his mana situation and
he tapped his green so that he couldn't have Scavenging Ooze and then plus Liliana. Drew's just like rubbing his hands together like Mr. Burns, you know? Excellent. Hit for 5 down to 6. But here comes Mama, I feel like.
Here we go. Drew Kuenzinger untaps with exactly the type of situation he wants with this deck. Unburial Rites targeting Angel of Serenity.
You get to get back like a Restoration Angel and a Nighthawk and take out the Lifebane zombie. Something like that.
This is why I thought you have to take the Angel of Serenity. If you can't beat a Thragtusk, you shouldn't even be playing Standard right now. But
yeah, I agree.
Angel of Serenity just comes so over the top, and you know eventually you're going to reach this point in the game.
So I guess you can't get the white creature back and the Lifebane zombie since your Serenity's going to get edicted if you don't have another creature. So you probably just hit the Lifebane zombie and the 2 black creatures.
And there he goes.
And that's what he does do. And he's got a Putrefy for the Mutavault, which is presumably going to try and get in.
So Drew Kuenzinger has been taken down to 6 life. But he does have some life gain now represented in Disciple
I'm pretty sure
Vampire Nighthawk hiding under that Angel of Serenity.
I'm pretty sure we call this position stabilized, and now it's just a matter of turning the corner, which is going to come quite swiftly as Drew drew 3 cards and then Angeled, you know. So now he's got once the Angel dies, it's because you have to kill the Angel.
Yeah.
So once the Angel dies,
forced to -2 his Liliana.
Yeah. Now Drew's hand is just full of gas.
He can recast the Lifebane zombie, but Drew has set it up so that it's going to whiff.
It's going to look at a Putrefy, the Disciple and Nighthawk we know about, an Unburial Rites, and something else that Drew chose to put off camera because he hates us.
He was so kind earlier, showing us his hand.
Yeah, and laying out his graveyard so we could see everything.
Okay,
there
here
we go.
Thank you.
Oh, it's a Shadowborn Demon. Jeez.
Another black card.
Disciple, Nighthawk, Unburial, Putrefy, Shadowborn. That's a nice hand. And the Angel in the yard just waiting for that Unburial Rites.
Yeah, gets to cast Unburial Rites 2 more times here.
Watching this game makes me miss playing Junk Reanimator. Just look at all the awesome stuff he's doing.
And he started off with. No, he didn't start off Mana Screw. That was game 2.
Yeah, no, this game he just
Yeah, on serve, he Grizzly salvaged on turn 2 into awesome.
But then he didn't have anything on 3, needed to peel something on 4 and got Lifebane zombied. But then he reached turn 5 with.
Restoration Angel Disciple.
Yeah, he reached turn 5 alive, and so he was able to just construct an absurd combination of cards to generate a huge advantage in a short amount of time. And now it's just a matter of making sure that you don't randomly die and being able to kill Cory in the most effective manner possible. Because Cory's deck looks like he is going to go on Burial Angel to start. Cory's deck can actually come back from some pretty scary positions by just going Desecration Demon, Disciple us, you know? So it's not like Drew's completely won, even though he's certainly in a position of true favor. I wouldn't say that it's a won position, it's just a very favorable one.
And last turn, Cory Lamb, after casting the Lifebane zombie, attacked with the Mutavault into the Putrefy that he knew was there, so just wanted to trade those resources off at that point.
Yeah, well his out is something like Desecration Demon into something else into Disciple, you know? Or Thragtusk into Disciple, something like that.
Right, and Drew being at 6 life was really kind of forced to kill the Mutavault.
Yeah. Well, that's not bad either.
Underworld Connections, Enchanting the Swamp.
Underworld Connections is pretty good, but I don't know if it's good enough to outrun an Angel of Serenity, which is basically what it's, taxed to doing here.
And somewhat notable is you're going to lose life. You have to pay life to draw those cards off the connections.
Yeah, I mean, it basically takes a turn off of the clock, but it's definitely worth it from Cory's perspective. It's just going to be very difficult for him to outrun that Angel, especially with Drew's hand as stacked as it is.
Yeah, and at any point here, Drew can just cast a Disciple of Bolas and get himself out of damage range.
Yeah.
So we did see a Mutilate in Cory's hand. Is he going to be able to find a good opportunity here to take out
that is
some
another way
creatures?
that he could win, is if Drew, randomly overextended, like used his backside of the Unburial and played, his Nighthawks and his Shadowborn Demons or what have you, and a big Mutilate gets off. That is definitely a way that they could, that Cory could theoretically pull back out of this.
He's only got the 4 swamps, Woodland Cemetery, not Overgrown Tomb. So that's a slight disadvantage here for Mutilate.
Yeah. And you can see Cory trying to piece it together. He's like, how do I win this game from this position? He knows he's behind. It's just like when you're losing like this, it's just, what are my outs, basically? Like, what sort of runner, or like what mistake can I induce from my opponent to let me back into this? He leads with Liliana, the Edict effect, and that takes out the Nighthawk, turns on the Morbid for the Tragic Slip. That Angel of Serenity is going to fall into the graveyard.
Ooh, but does not have enough mana to cast the Lifebane Zombie.
Yep, so the Resto gets to come into play and is presumably going to get discipled away here.
After taking out Liliana.
Yes.
But Cory Lamb did play an Overgrown Tomb, so that's his 5th swamp for that Mutilate. So he traded some resources there, bought some time.
Yeah.
And he still has an ace up his sleeve in Mutilate.
And that Underworld Connection's going. That's,
Drew decides not to take out Liliana. Attacks Cory with the Restoration Angel.
he doesn't take Liliana out or Disciple. Like the 2 things that we thought for sure he was going to do that turn.
Well, he thinks he can just win it right here.
Yeah.
So he's probably going to be forced.
He's going for the throat, but he's going to get mutilated pretty hard here.
I think that's a fine game plan for Drew. He still has the Unburial Rites flashback in his graveyard with Angel of Serenity.
Yeah. Certainly true. But, like, the Liliana is going to go back up to 2 here.
Pointing.
You, me, you,
most likely life totals. I'm at 8, you're at 11. What's your life total?
So, like, the Liliana didn't plus there, which is pretty interesting. Like, I think you use your Underworld Connections and then plus the Liliana there so that you have an Edict sitting in play for the inevitable Unburial Rites my Angel on the next turn.
Right, although Drew most likely has a bunch of extra creatures in hand.
Yeah, but like you need the Edict as an additional removal spell so that you can go like Edict Slip or whatever. Like, you're obviously not going to kill the Angel with the Edict, but you're not going to kill the Angel with a Slip either if you don't also have the Edict.
There we go. Elvish Mystic, Unburial Rites, Angel of Serenity, getting back Restoration Angel, Vampire Nighthawk.
And something else sweet.
Another Disciple, I think, maybe?
I think both Disciples are in his hand. Maybe another Nighthawk, I'm not sure.
A lot of cards. A lot of creature cards hidden under the Angel of Serenity.
Value is what's under that Angel of Serenity. So Cory going to his turn. He's going to have to find some combination of cards to get out from under this. I guess it's not an Angel loop, but the Angel's definitely burying him here. And so he's got to find a way to outrun it. You know, the Connections is helping for sure. It's helping him stay in the game, but it's not going to win him the game. He's going to need a Disciple or you know, some type of powerful sequence to be able to win from here.
I'll tell you what the sequence is for Cory Lamb to win this game.
What's that?
Get in his DeLorean, go 88 miles per hour back to turn 3, and exile that Angel
instead of the Thragtusk, yeah.
He's used so many resources fighting not just the Angel, but the cards that Drew keeps getting back with it.
Yeah.
And Cory himself has been getting back the Lifebane Zombie, but Drew's been sequencing it so that most of the time it's
just
missing.
Misses, yeah. Cory's also doing something that's... Okay, never mind. I was gonna say I thought he was going to activate his Underworld Connections, which would put him at dead. But Scavenging Ooze is pretty good.
What just happened there? Because it looked like
Drew was untapping, but I don't think Cory had passed.
So it's possible they're discussing here with the spotter what happened.
Yeah, what phase of the game we're in.
It looks like Drew started to take his turn, untapped, drew his card, which he seems to be indicating was that forest.
Yeah.
And Cory Lamb saying, hang on.
Well, we know for a fact it's the forest because he just got Lifebane zombied. But, yeah, it's kind of an awkward position. Drew thought it was his turn. Cory hadn't passed yet. Scavenging Ooze is a nice one for this spot, though. That's one way that you can, get rid of that that Angel of Serenity.
Needed it a few turns ago.
Yeah, it is.
All of the unburial rites.
It is a little late. Well, for a bunch of these turns, it was like a little awkward because he wasn't activating his Underworld Connections on his turn and then activating it on the opponent's turn. Yeah, the Liliana was also weird. Cutting back to the booth. Hi, guys. There's a judge ruling being appealed right now, so
we'll find out what
We'll find out what's going on in a second. But yeah, you're obviously drawing to something like a Scavenging Ooze there, right? Like that's like your only way to really get back in the game.
Yeah.
So stands to reason that you would want to draw your card first for if not for that reason, also just like maximum information available before you make your decisions, right? On this last turn, it makes sense because the 1 life represented the difference between lethal and not.
Sure.
Like, he's at 6, facing down 5 flying. So that makes sense. But on these other turns, like, he could have started his turn by activating Underworld Connections and then made more informed decisions and had the additional draws to Scavenging Ooze with, when he had mana available. Mm-hmm. Just like a small sequencing thing that could have been improved there, I think. And...
Right, always draw your cards first so you know what you're dealing with, so you have full information.
Exactly, the maximum information before you make your decisions. And so now he's got this Scavenging Ooze. He's still facing down this Angel, but he can't, he's also tapped out or like close to it, so he can't like kill the Angel and Scavenging Ooze the thing because he doesn't have enough mana. And the Scavenging Ooze is presumably going to get Desecration Demon, or not Desecration Demon. What's the other demon? Shadowborn Demon.
Right, we've seen that in Drew's hands.
Yeah, so he's gonna go like Shadowborn Demon, your Scavenging Ooze, and then Disciple it, and then the game's just completely out of reach. Or maybe even not even Disciple it. Just
who knows?
Just leave a 5/6 in play.
Drew's got a lot of cards in his hand.
Yeah, it's gonna
be a lot of gas.
It's gonna be pretty hard to win from this point. Looks like the rule or the thing in question was that Drew thought the Cory had passed. Cory didn't believe that he had passed, so figuring that out, talking to some judges.
How different is this game if Cory Lamb chooses to exile the Angel of Serenity on turn 3 with Lifebane Zombie?
It's weird because I was gonna say like there's the Thragtusk sequence, like Thragtusk into Disciple, but the Disciple got value anyway.
Yeah.
Because he had, but it's only because he randomly peeled the resto, but he like drew Restoration Angel so that his Disciple was for 3 instead of 5 if he had done the Thragtusk sequence. But it was would have been 2 turns. Yeah, it would have been 2 turns later for 2 more theoretically if everything played out exactly the same. But with that Restoration Angel draw, it's like your Disciple's not that great, or your Disciple's really good anyway. Whereas Cory's plan was sort of to blank the Disciple at least for a while, which obviously didn't work out because he drew Restoration Angel immediately. So like, it's hard to tell. Like, he's trying to blank the Disciple. He does exactly that, but then gets peeled on. Whereas if he does it the other way, and instead of Restoration Angel, so like he takes Angel of Serenity, say, Instead of Restoration Angel, he draws... What's a card that punishes the other side of it?
Punishes... For leaving the Thragtusk?
Yeah, punishes...
I mean, Restoration Angel. If you go Thragtusk, Restoration Angel...
Yeah, you draw Resto anyway, and then the Thragtusk gets...
But again, it would have been 2 turns later.
Gets Angeled and then Discipled. Like, it's hard to say that Cory is winning that game anyway, you know? So, if he's not winning that game anyway, you might as well take the card that gives you the best chance to win, which might actually have been the Thragtusk to blank the Disciple to try and get him dead before he gets to the point where he's looping Angels. I'm not saying necessarily it's right, but like that could have been his thinking, and that follows. You know, that makes sense. The fact that he peeled Resto on the next turn, like he immediately peeled Restoration Angel, makes it look so bad, because then he just curves into Disciple anyway, and then has the Angel of Serenity for when he needs it. Like, that's like the worst case scenario. But the other way could have been equally as bad for him, but with a greater like swath of draws that punishes it. Because like at that point, even like a Grizzly Salvage or something is like pretty bad. Like, yeah, like an Unburial Rites is like pretty bad. Whereas if you take the Thragtusk, then the Unburial Rites is like more manageable, because he's Unburial Righting Resto or Disciple instead of Thragtusk the other way.
So here's my thinking on why I would take the Angel of Serenity.
Okay, let's hear it.
I can't beat that card.
Very few can.
Like, we've seen how this game is developed.
Yeah.
And you get into these, you know, Angel loop or near loop situations where it's coming back and doing all these things.
It's a lot of value.
How do you beat that? Like Thragtusk, like I said, if you can't,
you're not outrunning it. You have to deal with it straight up somehow. Like, you have to scavenge use it out of the yard, or run it down. Like, kill it. Like all the iterations of it that he has. You know, like both sides of the Unburial Rites. Hope he doesn't draw another Unburial Rites, a Mulchin Unburial Rites, a Grizzly Salvage, or another Angel.
But it's
like, you have to fade all of those.
It's just a creature on the board. Some life. 3/3, like you can deal with 3/3s.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Angel of Serenity is like a Thragtusk that gets back a bunch of 3/3s.
Yeah, like seeing a Angel of Serenity with a Lifebane zombie is one of the rare opportunities to actually just deal with it. Yeah. Just like have it out of the way and gone forever, and you don't have to worry about it. Like, if you don't have a Scavenge Use in hand, it feels like you're almost priced into taking Angel of Serenity no matter what their hand is. And that hand that he showed was the perfect hand to take Thragtusk from, right? Like, it was the Disciple hand. It's like the hands that you want most for them to not have a Thragtusk. And I still agree with you that you're priced into taking the Angel because it's just too good. Right. If you don't have a straight up answer for it, it's just too good. And Lifebane Zombie, looking at an Angel Serenity without a Scavenge Use in hand, you have to realize, like, this is my chance. Like, this is my one opportunity I'm going to have this game to just get this out of the way.
Yeah, I'm very single-minded. Like, if I see the Angel, I'm just like, oh yeah, get it. I don't think of these sequences that you're talking about with Thragtusk. I mean, I agree that obviously Thragtusk Disciple is very bad as well, but it just seems like Angel is so much worse.
All right, looks like we're cutting back to the game. The ruling was indeed that Cory was still on his main phase, and he got to cast his Scavenging Ooze. Drew is now untapping and going to hit what he had already tried to be his turn. I guess they're trying to figure out the mana situation or something.
Going back to the Scavenging Ooze, he does have the Woodland Cemetery is his only green, untapped green source, so Cory Lamb can gain 1 life here and go to 7.
Yeah, but
so he can use the Underworld Connections.
He can,
this turn.
But this is not the answer. It's just going to get Shadowborn Demon. The Angel's in play, so it can't be Scavenging Used away. The Scavenging Ooze is very good against this deck, but not in this situation. It's too little too late, it appears, for Cory Lamb.
But Cory has gotten all of the unburial rights that we've seen so far.
Yes, that is true. He's run down all the unburial rights, but
if he gets a mutilate, if he draws a mutilate at this point.
I mean, Drew still has 3 creatures under his angel and 2 disciples in hand. It's going to be pretty hard to run that down, even with an Underworld Connections.
So having Underworld Connections is not enough.
No, I mean, Underworld Connections is very good. Underworld Connections is the only reason that this game is still happening. You know, it's the only reason that Cory was even close to maybe being able to get lucky and create a comeback. Without the Underworld Connections, Drew would have buried him by now. But he's been using it to try and stay afloat, try and buy enough time and generate enough resources to be able to run down the Angel. It just looks like he hasn't quite been able to put it together in time. And it looks like he is now passing to Drew. He's untapping, drawing a forest for turn.
So now, main phase 1, Demon.
Here comes Demon, yep.
Necrotal, your guy. Do the kids still call it Necrotal, or have they just moved on?
No, it's still Necrotal.
Activate Scavenging Ooze, gain some life.
I saw somebody when the Moto Cube was happening. Somebody like faceless butchered something else, and my friend called it. What's the Fiend Hunter? He called it Fiend Huntering it. He's like, yeah, I'll Fiend Hunter your guy. He's just like, no, Faceless Butcher's the original. Come on.
Come on. The nightmares. The nightmare tricks. Okay, so the Shadowborn Demon entered the battlefield, destroyed the Scavenging Ooze. In response, Cory Lamb activated, exiled the creature, gained a life.
This is now a lethal attack from Drew, so the Lifebane Zombie is going to have to give himself up for the Elvish Mystic. We call this check. A lethal attack where it can be prevented. Yeah, it's a forced move.
Where you're forced to trade your Lifebane Zombie for a Mystic?
Yeah.
Well, no, he didn't.
What, he didn't?
So he's declining, he's going to decline to use
He chooses that, he decides that the Lifebane Zombie in play is more important than the card off of Underworld Connections.
And now Drew plays a Disciple of Bolas, sacrificing the Shadowborn Demon so he doesn't have to deal with that trigger.
Yeah, I can't really get behind that play. I feel like you got to do like some chain mutilates or something to get out of that, and the card from the
mystery card is better than Lifebane Zombie.
Yeah, a stupid Lifebane Zombie just sitting in play not doing anything. I mean, not that it's a huge mistake, because, you know, the game was likely over already, but like, you got to play to your 1%ers, you know?
Here we go, tapping 5?
Looks like a Thrag Tusk, sure enough. If he can follow this up, did he already play his land? If he can go like Land Disciple, he might be able to put something together.
So that was it. That was
time
was called on the match. Drew Kuenzinger.
They don't have an extension for the judge ruling?
Maybe we've already used it all up.
I think they got a little more time. Looks like an Angel attack. Threaten to put Cory to 1. Sure enough, goes through. Grizzly Salvage going off. And he hits, is that a Blood Baron of Viscopa?
That is, and a Thragtusk. Those are 2 pretty good creatures when you're in a racing situation like this. You know, not that it's much of a race, but I would like a little more life. Says Kuenzinger.
I wouldn't mind a little boost, a little shot in the arm
5 more
here.
vitality points. I mean, back in my day, we call them hit points.
Yeah, HP. Did you also call it fainting when you lost?
No.
Riki Hayashi has fainted.
No, you're just dead.
Oh, okay.
We're R-rated.
Oh, yes. This is a 13 and up game, you know.
Cory Lamb looking for an out. Mutilate would buy him some time. Disciple of Bolas will also buy him some
Disciple's
time.
not the worst.
Gain 5, draw 5.
Depending on what the time situation is, Cory might actually be able to force a draw here if he gains enough life.
I believe we're on turn 2 of 5.
Can we get that confirmed that this is turn 2?
That seems to be what the die is representing.
Kind of funny because Cory already has a draw in this tournament. So he'll be going to 6-0-2 if he does manage to get a draw.
Yeah, that's a dangerous situation in a tournament, 2 draws.
Yes.
The same as a loss, some might say, the second draw.
There is the Mutilate. So he might actually be able to force a draw here.
Ben Liliana's been sitting there for a while, not doing anything.
Yeah, and that might be the time to plus it. Now that he's drawn a bunch of cards, I'm sure he has a land he can discard and just like get it into a free edict mode.
We see the Todd Anderson token, the Beast.
Slip that.
Now,
Still not gonna plus Lily.
No.
All right, so we're going to turn 3. Drew's got one more turn after this to try and kill Cory Lamb.
It's kind of a shocking turn of events here. That Cory has been able to engineer what looks to be a draw. Drew says go?
Yeah, I think he's going double Restoration Angel here. And so he's not opening himself up to another Mutilate. But that means that any life gain or even like a Tragic Slip is, and that's a draw.
That's gonna do it.
That is a draw.
No counter spells in the Junk Reanimator deck. Thragtusk is gonna have to resolve, gain 5 life for Cory Lamb.
I think that Drew let this one go.
At what point?
When the turn where we were like, well, he's gonna kill Liliana and Disciple, and he like didn't Disciple, and then a couple turns later, he like could have played the Disciple on the Angel of Serenity, and then on Burial Rites it. He didn't do it that turn either. He just like he just refused to use his Disciple because he was like content with a 5 damage clock, but like he just played like Nighthawk and Elf or whatever into Mutilate, right? And then had no board and was tapped out because he went